How did we get here?
I'm not asking you the same question.
Okay.
How did we get here?
Good morning, Cedar Rapids. Hey, salutations. Okay.
Brothers, let us all unite!
You would rather have us keep the internet than have peace in the world. Like, no, I gotta have my internet.
Not live in front of an internet audience. It's the I'm Clifford Today show. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for all watching today. So it's a bit of a different episode, as you can probably tell. I had to work today, this day that this video is being aired. This is actually Friday night, and it's actually pretty late because, again, my computer is just being way too slow. It took like an hour for me to just get the things started and to get things ready. I had to get a few things ready, and I wish I had not left it for the night before, but I'm too lazy. That's my problem. Also, can you tell I've got a lot of sun on my face, and you can probably tell that I wear a hat for most of the day because it's like very light up here but very dark up here. I'm gonna start looking like Batman or something, or insert any superhero that has a mask that's like up to here. Anyway, so yeah, this is a pre-recorded episode, so it's gonna feel a little different. I apologize to everyone. I think I'm going to put this as like a premiere on YouTube so that, you know, it kind of feels more like a live episode. So if you guys are watching on the premiere, feel free to, comment in the chats. But if you're watching this later, it may feel a little different. There's not going to be any like live chats as I'm talking. I'm not going to be interacting with anyone, which is sad because I like doing that. So, but it is what it is. This is not going to be happening regularly, but I have said that it'll probably happen. I can't remember the last time I had to do this. I think I've had to do this once before, and I think it was because I was out of town at the time. But yeah, but we're here, baby, and we got a lot to talk about. First of all, intro music by John Bartman, johnbartman.com. And our album of the week. We are joined by Parsley, Sage, Rosemary, and Thyme by the dynamic duo Simon and Garfunkel. Classic album. So many great songs on there. Classic. Trying to think what else we got. I guess so I've got music, Sherwood Forest. You can check out my music on through Sherwood Forest on any platform that you listen to music, so go check that out. Also got merch, always a link in the description, always. And so I mentioned the trouble I was having with my computer. If you want things to be better for me when it comes to my channel, I would recommend you go support me on Patreon. Patreon.com/I'm Clifford Today. That could help me out and help me raise money for better equipment, for a better computer and everything. But, I'm happy to still be doing what I'm doing, even if you don't support me. It's cool when people just watch, So not much. So what we're going to talk about today, I'm pulling a Tim Pool where he just kind of says everything that they're going to talk about in the whole episode. So maybe that's a good idea for me to do. Today we're going to talk about an Instagram account that helps tell you whether a certain band is Christian or not. And it's going to be really interesting and really fun. So we're going to talk about that. And I'm also going to give my opinion on what I've seen so far of the new Hillsong documentary series on Hulu about Hillsong and Carl Lentz. I'll give my 2 cents about it. So that should be interesting. And but first, those are going to be our 2 main topics. I'll also have my humble opinion at the end, where I recommend some music, give some little reviews for music that I've listened to. First, there's not really any housekeeping to do, except maybe some of you guys are curious as to if there's been any aftermath about the whole Derek Webb situation. Not going to really recap you guys on what happened with that because, I spent the whole last episode talking about that. So go check that out if you guys haven't. And you should check out the episode before that started this whole thing, where I reviewed Derek Webb's album. So has there been any more pushback since the last episode concerning Derek Webb? No, there hasn't been, honestly. And I haven't gotten anything back from Derek. I have reached out to him personally multiple times. I've DM'd him and nothing. No idea if he's seen the new episode where I respond to him. There's a good chance that he has, and I don't know. Maybe he's seen the error of his ways. I don't know. I doubt it. But I did kind of call him out in the last episode about just kind of how weird it was that he just found some random guy's YouTube video talking about him, and how he just kind of posted it on social media for all of his followers to attack me. No, not really attack me. I don't care. Again, I'm more amused of the whole situation than rather hurt by it. But I don't know. Maybe he saw my points as to how weird that kind of is, that he is just looking himself up on YouTube. Because if that's what he's doing, I don't doubt that he found that video. But it seems that he has no interest in talking to me, no interest in, making any kind of amends or anything. Not that I'm asking for an apology from him, but I'm at least trying to reach out to him so that we can have a civil conversation. And so he just doesn't seem to be interested in that. But some of you might be asking, what are my thoughts on everything? And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but I just wanted to share that whole incident, that whole situation kind of made me realize for the first time, like really realize it, that, and I don't think I talked about this on the episode, but it made me realize, like, oh, maybe, now I guess there's a chance that people may see my videos, people that I'm talking about on my show, they might see it and so that's kind of made me I'm not talking about compromising my beliefs or compromising the truth, compromising what I believe to be true. I'm more talking about what's my approach going to be. Like, if I'd have known Derek Webb was going to see my review of his video, would I have approached it differently? Yeah, I think so. Would I have changed anything that I said. No, not the like the actual point of what I was trying to say, but I maybe would have been, I don't know, a bit more cordial, you know. It's just that like with the size of my channel, I just didn't expect to have any sort of impact on, at least not yet. I only have 400 something subscribers, which by the way, thank you guys very much. I'm very thankful for that, and I don't take that lightly. But, you know, when you look at it, in the grand scheme of things, I'm not the biggest YouTube channel by any stretch of the imagination. Again, I am very thankful for the audience that I have. But, you know, I just kind of thought, you know, and I've probably said this before, you know, maybe it won't be until like I have like the same amount of subscribers that Say Goodnight Kevin has, you know, just to give an example, then, you know, that's when I'm going to like make a dent, you know. That's when I should like be more aware that people are going to see my videos, you know. But Derek Webb proved me wrong. So what really am I going to change? I mean, I just want to be more aware of that, and, you know, when I'm criticizing someone, when I'm criticizing their beliefs or their works, I'm going to be a bit more aware and think, am I doing this in a loving way, in a Christ-like way? And that doesn't mean, because everyone seems, not everyone, but a lot of people seem to think that in order to be Christ-like, that means that you shouldn't say anything negative at all about anyone, that you shouldn't criticize them, or you shouldn't judge them, you know. And we talked about that in the last episode. And it's like, no, I'm still going to criticize someone like Derek Webb, and I'm going to lay my case for why I think that they're wrong with certain things that they say, you know, that I may disagree with. But I'm just going to make sure that I'm doing it in a loving way. I kind of feel like maybe I came across a bit too strong and a bit too, I don't know about mean, but, and maybe I'm overthinking this. Maybe I was perfectly fine in the episode, but this whole reaction from Derek has made me think, oh, okay, you know what? I'm going to be a bit more mindful about the fact that the person that I'm talking about right now will possibly see this, you know? So how is that going to change how I approach this? So, because I also started thinking about it, about the fact that I'm kind of slowly introducing myself into a community of, you know, how I'm getting involved in audio feed, and I have all these connections, and I mean, you guys know, if you've seen the audio feed documentary that I did, I had a bunch of conversations with people that I disagreed with, that I did not share the same beliefs. Even though I didn't debate them or confront them or anything, that wasn't the point of the video. But I want people to think. Because, like, if I go to audio feed and some artist there, or maybe even someone that I've already talked to from audio feed, they see me, and like, I don't want them to think that, like, oh, that's that guy that hates Derek Webb or whatever, or who hates people who don't agree with him. And I don't want that. I don't want people to think that at all. I mean, sure, if they know where I come from and they know what my beliefs are, that's fine. Just as long as they don't think that I hate them, or that I'm not able to, you know, have a conversation with them. I don't want that to be the message. But I do still want to be strong in the things that I believe, and in my convictions and in my faith. I want that to be clear. But overall, I want the love of Christ to shine through, and I want to be a good witness to them. That doesn't mean that affirming or agreeing with anything that they say, and I want that to be clear. But yeah, I don't know. I just want to put my best foot forward. I want to have a good impression on people, and I of course wouldn't want since I'm going to be a bit more involved with audio feed. That's the plan, at least. I don't want them to feel like that I can't be a part of what they're doing, So yeah, that's all I'm really saying about that. I've just had some time of reflection on this. And again, Derek Webb, if you're watching this, I may have some criticisms, and I may not like the whole way that you've handled this situation, but I'm always down for a conversation. I actually listened to I like how I'm still talking to him as if I'm talking directly to him. But I listened to your conversation on the Black Sheep podcast, which I've started listening to. And I especially wanted to check that episode out because I wasn't sure if Derek was going to mention me or not. But Derek Webb seems like a really charming guy. I will say that. I disagree with a lot that he says, but he comes across as the kind of guy who you can talk to and you can disagree with, and it'll be fine. It's just that his social media presence doesn't really share that same, image of him. So yeah, Derek, I'm still always down for a conversation, but I'm going to stop bugging you about it. But I don't know. I just kind of have this feeling that one day I'm going to run into him. Like someday audio feed's going to have him play or something. And then, I'm going to see him and it's going to be awkward. And I don't want it to be awkward, so whatever. What happens. Anyways, that is the last time I'm going to talk about Derek Webb for a while, unless he actually does reach out to me. But that's the last that you guys are going to hear about it from me for a while. So I'm sorry to keep bugging you guys, but anyways, so there is this new Instagram account that I discovered. I'm a part of this Facebook group called Christian Metal Facebook group. I joined it initially because I wanted to promote my As I Lay Dying YouTube video series, and I've kind of just stayed on it. Even though I'm not the biggest metalhead, but there are a few bands that I enjoy. I mean, I definitely had my metal phase back in the day, and there's still some of those bands that I still listen to today, and I like it. I haven't really left my metal phase, but I'm not I'm not a metalhead. But this guy promoted his new Instagram account on that group, and that Instagram account is called "Is Blank a Christian Band?" And that's the Instagram username. Is blank a Christian band? Is blank a Christian band? And the point of the Instagram account, if you haven't caught on yet, is that what he does is that he basically does the Lord's work. Or she. I'm actually not really sure. I'm pretty sure it's a he. From what I remember when they posted about it, when they first promoted the account. And what they do is that they get in bands' DMs and artists, and he simply asks, "Are you a Christian band?" Now, this has been something that has been a hot topic conversation, well, not hot topic, but I guess hot button issue. And I talked about it on the channel before, and it's just it has to do with the conversation of, whether a band is Christian or not, and whether that's important. and how do you define what a Christian band is. And, you know, I've talked about it before on the channel. Because it's true, you have your bands that are all out, like, definitely Christian, and then you have your bands that are, like, kind of on the other end of the spectrum where they're Christians, but not all their music is necessarily talking about God and such. And so when you have those bands, it's kind of hard to differentiate them between secular bands, you know. And there's also the fact that there's a lot of bands that started out as Christian that aren't anymore. And so a lot of people really value a band's, you know, how they identify as with their faith. And I'm not saying that's like good or bad, but if you're one of those guys that it's really important for you to know, then this Instagram account is for you. Although I say this Is Blank a Christian Band does a pretty good job at not really saying, you know, if a band says they're not Christian, this account doesn't like shame them or anything or make them feel bad or anything. They're just like, oh, all right, cool. And they still, with every post that they do, they promote the band. You know, whether they're Christian or not, they'll be like, blank is a Christian band or blank isn't a Christian band. Check out their music on, you know, yada, yada, yada. Or check out their latest album or whatever. So it's not really, it's cool because it's not really judgmental or anything. Well, I guess technically it is judging a band. You know, you're making a judgment about whether they're Christian or not. But it's not like antagonistic or anything. So it's kind of cool in that sense. And a lot of the artists, you know, they'll get some pretty big name artists to respond to them. And it's a cool idea because, like, sure, people have been like trying to pinpoint certain Christian bands for years and you know, trying to figure out whether they're Christian or not. But I think the thing that's cool is that, like, it's obvious what the point of this account is. It's like a good platform for if your band wants to make a statement. You know, you get this DM from this account, Is Blank a Christian Band? You're like, what is this? And you check out their account, and you know immediately what it's about. And so you know, certain bands can be like, oh, so if I respond to this message, we're basically making a public declaration. You know, which I think it's okay to have that kind of transparency. So that's what this account does. He reaches out to bands and he asks, are you a Christian band? They respond, and he makes a screenshot of the conversation and posts it on the account. And of course, he said in a post that he gets permission from the artist for them to be able to do that. So, I mean, like any artist, any band that sees that Is Blank a Christian Band has DM'd them, they know what's going to happen, you know, once they look at their account. But anyways, so what we're going to do is that, we got a few minutes before we got to go to a break, but what we're going to do is that we're going to go through some of their recent posts, and we're going to find out what bands are Christian or not. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun time. All right. Let's switch over. Hello? Yes, we're all good. All right, so we're going to their most recent post, which, interestingly enough, is actually a band that I know and people that I know personally. It's Meadows. For those of you guys who've seen my Audio Feed documentary, these dudes were there at Audio Feed and I got to interview them and have a conversation with them, and they're really cool guys. And so, Is Blank a Christian Band? Asked them, are you a Christian band? And they said, we are. I mean, I could have told you that. So, cool. Good response, Meadows. I hope you guys are doing well. And let's just keep on going, you know? Let's keep going and finding out. Oh, by the way, there may be some posts that are a bit suggestive, so I'll do my best to censor myself, but you may see some, stuff on the post, because there are some bands that just don't have a filter, and Is Blank a Christian Band just kind of is, transparent about that. For instance, this band, and pardon my French, I personally don't really have a problem with this word, but some Christians do. Piss Leech. Are they a Christian band? And they simply responded with a gif of, from King of the Hill, pocket fentanyl. And so Is Blank a Christian Band just posted it and said, Piss Leech is not a Christian band. Piss Leech is a noisy Minecraft. Is that Mincecraft or Minecraft? Band from Michigan. So, interesting. So, Piss Leech is not a Christian band. In Your Distress. Are they a Christian band? Yes, we are. All glory to Jesus Christ. Awesome. I've never heard of In Your Distress, but seems interesting. In Your Distress is a hard rock metalcore band. Stream their new single, Deception, now. And I don't know, maybe this episode will be a good opportunity for you guys to check out some interesting bands. They do ask a lot of metal bands, but it's not all metal. But a lot of it is. So, this band, Fuath, or Fuath, not really sure. Are you a Christian band? Yes, we love Jesus. So they are a Christian band. They are an atmospheric black metal band from Glasgow, Scotland. Awesome. Fourth. Looks like some people in the comments are not believing them, saying they're fake news. No, I doubt the truth of this statement. Let's check and see. I hope you're wrong. Their music and Andy Marshall's other projects are based on pagan themes. The answer seems sarcastic. Okay, maybe Fuath is not Christian. We're finding these things out together. Zach Glaser is asked, are you... Okay, here's some more suggestive stuff. Are you a Christian band? Yes, Daddy. Can I post this to the page? Yes. Oh, woo. Ooh, woo. So Glay Band is a Christian band. Glay is a one-man deathcore band from North Carolina. Stream their latest album, Extraction, now. So just a little weird with their response, but yeah, apparently Zach Glaser, his band, Glay Band, is a Christian band. Also, come on, dude, your phone is at 1%. What the heck is wrong with you? Why is your phone like always low percentage? All right, I think we'll do one more before we go to a break, and we'll come back to more. I don't know, is this interesting or not? I think that this is interesting. This response obviously has a pretty longer response, so, and I think this kind of starts some interesting conversation to be had. So Dens, was asked, are you a Christian band? They responded with, that's an interesting question. Over the years, I've seen and given all manner of straightforward and clever responses to the question, but I'd love to break this down a little in order to be precise. If by your question you actually mean, is dens a group that consists of 4 human beings created in the image of God, imago Dei, but intrinsically lacking a soul of its own and therefore incapable of coming to a saving knowledge of the work of Jesus Christ, is that band Christian? Then the answer must be no. No more than a mountain range can claim to be Christian or a sunset be redeemed by the blood of Christ. That's kind of the John Foreman response. John Foreman is basically given that exact response. It's like, Christian music doesn't have a soul, so how can it be Christian, So they probably kind of stole that from John Foreman, but whatever. However, if your question is shorthand for asking if dens exists like the mountains and sunsets in the example above to reflect the Father's glory in creation, then without hesitation I would say yes. In fact, I would even double down in specificity by saying that dens is unapologetically a theological post-rock band. Interesting. That is to say, we play music in the rock post-rock genre that is inspired by Christian theology. I like that answer. One of our favorite albums came directly from Scripture, No Small Tempest, and our recent releases were written based on studying wisdom, literature through the book of James, Taming Tamed Tongues. That's one of their songs, it looks. Whatever we end up writing and playing, it will be from an outflowing of Christian theology. If that is what you mean, then yes. I'll take yes. So yes, Dens is a hardcore rock band from Richmond, Virginia. Stream their latest album, Tamed Tongues, now. I think that's an interesting response, and I like it. Yes, and I think it's interesting and kind of ironic because, like, my whole YouTube channel is focused around Christian music. I myself don't really believe in the Christian music genre. I don't think that's really a thing, but it's the fact that the industry has made it a thing where it's like, okay, I guess it's a thing. If that makes any sense, I don't believe that Christian music should be a genre, especially since there are so many different genres within Christian music. And I've made this exact argument on a video that I did. It's like, David Bowie is a Buddhist, or what, practice Buddhism. Does that mean his music is Buddhist music? No, so I think Christian music is mostly called Christian music just because it's become an industry, so, but, trying to think of what I was trying to say. But I guess whether I like it or not, Christian music is going to be a thing, and so I talk about it anyways. I still care about it, but I just don't think that it should be. I don't think it should be a genre. Not that I don't think that Christian music shouldn't exist. I mean, like, the artists that make the music, yes, of course, they should. But, I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of going around in circles. But it's also a question of how I clarify Christian music. Because, yes, obviously it seems that Dens, their music is heavily focused on or inspired by, I guess, Christian theology. But not every person who is a Christian and an artist writes music like that. You have different bands and artists that also decide to write about relationships or things going on in their life, and I think that's also fine. I guess the way that I define Christian music, and that this kind of is reflected by the artists and bands that I cover, for like my humble opinion, if the chief songwriter is a professing Christian, and not even just professing, but I guess it's also important for me that they are actually saved. And that sometimes that's a little harder to tell. But if the chief songwriter is a Christian, then I'm going to cover them, you know. I'm going to put them in what I define as Christian music, I guess. So, anyways, I want to keep going through a few more of these because I just think it's interesting. But we're going to go to an ad break because we got to do that. But I hope you guys are enjoying this. I definitely am. But don't go away. We'll be right back. Yeah.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Okay, so I totally forgot that I didn't have the I didn't have the ad break video that I had. And I know I had this problem last episode, and I tried to make the video again because for some reason my stupid self deleted the video. And so I tried to render it again, but then I realized that the files that I used were also gone. And so I'll have it for the next episode. I know you guys love it. I know you guys like the jam, the song, and everything. I'll have it next time. I promise you. All right. Anyways, we're back. For some of you, you know, it wasn't really anything. But for you audio listeners, there should have been something there. So, we're going to keep going through some of these bands on Is Blank a Christian Band? Sorry, I had to take a drink of water. It's good stuff. To Die Elsewhere. Never heard of this band, but they were asked, "Are you a Christian band?" "Hello. Yes, we are," they responded. So they are a Christian band. They are a metalcore band from Salem, Oregon. Stream their new EP, Under Gods, now. Under Gods. I like that title. Natural End. Yeah, Natural End. Was asked, "Are you a Christian band?" The vocalist of this band is an Orthodox Christian, but not all members are Christian. And Is Blank a Christian Band responded with, so you wouldn't consider yourself a Christian band? They responded with, "It would be disingenuous to consider the band a Christian band if only one member claims it. But as far as myself, vocalist, I adhere to the Apostles' Creed and the faith of Jesus Christ." Okay. So they were basically, Is Blank a Christian Band basically labeled them as not a Christian band. You know, that's how they responded with. And I totally get that. But like I was saying before the break, I would put this band in my umbrella term of what I think Christian music is. If he's the main songwriter, then I would be comfortable. I wouldn't label them as a Christian band because I don't really like doing that for anyone. But I would feel comfortable recommending this to Christians who would like the music because the main songwriter is a Christian, and so he's going to have stuff that he's written about that they're going to appreciate. So I especially appreciate his response. "I adhere to the Apostles' Creed and the faith of Jesus Christ." I love that. You know, it's very specific, and I like that. I also get the place that he's in. Like when Sherwood Forest was a band, it was a group of many different people, of many different beliefs. And I wouldn't necessarily recommend it because it didn't end up going that smoothly for me in the end. But for a while, it kind of worked, and so I understand the position that he's in. And maybe the band started out as Christian, and then they changed their beliefs. You know, that's totally happened with a lot of bands. But yeah, anyways, natural end. Grunge Punks Band. Yeah, that's their name, Grunge Punks. Asked, are you a Christian band? They responded, yes, Grunge Punks works with the Sharon Collective, which is a Christian label. Ah, okay. So they are a hard rock band from Atlanta, Georgia. Interesting name. Never heard of them, but cool. Let's do a few more. Torture Pig. They were great name. They were asked, are you a Christian band? Their response, no, we are all gay and love murder. Sorry, frowny face. Interesting. We are all gay and love murder. Sorry, frowny face. Yeah, like this person commented, well, they're pretty honest. Can't blame them for that. So, they are not a Christian band. They are from South Bend, Indiana. They are grindcore, hardcore band. Check them out. Okay. So Much Hope Buried. Interesting name. They were asked, are you a Christian band? They responded, hello. The band as a whole is not. So here we got another one of these. Most of our members are, but some are not, so we don't label ourselves as such. But it happens our vocalist writes about God and his relationship with him. Hope that helped. It does. So, yeah, I would say the same thing about them. Maybe not identifying as a Christian band, but I mean, I've never heard their lyrics, and I don't know the vocalists' and songwriters' theology or what his beliefs are, but assuming that he is an Orthodox Christian, then, you know, I would feel comfortable with recommending this group if I liked their music, which I don't know. Never heard of them. All right. A Moment in Pompeii was asked, are you a Christian band? They responded with, hey, love your account. About half of our members are Christian or come from a Christian background. We all met at a Christian college, but we've never labeled ourselves as a Christian band. However, you will see a spiritual struggle shine through in almost every song. Have a great day, my friend. So they are not a Christian band. Not sure whether the songwriter is actually Christian, because all he said was talking about spiritual struggles. So I don't know, but interesting. Let's do a couple more. Underneath the Gun. Underneath the Gun. I don't know how you would get yourself in that situation, but cool. They were asked, are you a Christian band? They responded with, all Christian faith. Oh, wow. So I guess yes, that. I'll take that as a yes. And so is blank a Christian band. They are a Christian band from Corona, California. Oh no. Corona. Anyways. Here's an interesting one because I actually know these dudes. Kind of, sorta. Earth Groans. They are from Solid State. Solid State Records, which is a branch off of Tooth and Nail Records. Which, yeah, I know that Tooth and Nail has said that they're not like a quote-unquote Christian label, but they've always been known to be like they're predominantly Christian bands or Christians in a band, you know, that whole thing. And so Solid State is like more their heavier bands and such. But okay, so excuse me. Earth Groans, interesting story. I played a show with them as Sherwood Forest with my band, Sherwood Forest. It was a house show, a basement show. And I mean, for those of you who don't know, Sherwood Forest is not a metal band. I almost said Christian band. We're not metal. But in fact, I think me and Mitchell talked about this on the Podwood Forecast. I think it was on our Lost episode. I think we talked about this show. But it was just one of those shows that we kind of got tagged on to, where we were the odd one out. We were the indie folk band in the midst of a lot of punk and metal bands. And this band Earthgroans, this was in their earlier days, because this was a few years ago. They were touring, and this they were a part of this a part of this show, and we connected with them, and I'm friends on social media with some of them. Also, their merch guy, Zachary Thayer, is a cool guy. I've made connections with him, so shout out to Zachary Thayer. I'm friends with him. So yeah, but I knew that most of the band members, if not all of them, were Christian at the time, and but they responded with, "I myself am a believer." I'm assuming it's the lead vocalist, which I'm sorry, I know I'm friends with him on Facebook, but I cannot remember his name at the moment. I'm blanking out on his name, but and we have some Christian lyrics, but I'm the only member that's a believer. So again, same response. I would recommend these guys to Christians, because the lead guy, he's a solid dude. I'd say he's a solid Christian. So Earthgroans, and they're a big band. They've become pretty big. I believe Earthgroans has played an audio feed, but I haven't seen them there. So, but they're cool dudes. Also, one of their members, Zachary Mayfield, he makes some really cool videos. He's got a YouTube channel and such. So shout out to Zachary Mayfield. But yeah, that's Earthgroans. They're not a Christian band, but whatever. We'll do one more here. Sanctify Studios. This is funny because sometimes Is Blank a Christian band just asks random accounts that obviously aren't a band. He'll ask them and they'll get interesting responses from them. Are you a Christian band? Yes and no. Christian music is written, produced, practiced, and promoted here, but Sanctify Studios is not a band itself. However, you can find many Christian bands and Christian music reactions, reviews on the Sanctify Studios YouTube channel. So Sanctify Studios is not a Christian band. But they are Christians. So I remember seeing this post. I looked at their channel. I haven't watched their videos yet, but you guys might be interested in it. Since you guys watch me, you might be interested in someone else who reviews Christian music and talks about it. It's kind of nice to know that I'm not the only one out there. So, and I think their focus is mostly on Christian metal, but so yeah. Anyways, that's Is Blank a Christian band. Go follow him on Instagram. Even if you're not really interested in finding out whether a band is Christian or not, excuse me, it's entertaining. It can be entertaining content, that's for sure. Sorry, I keep burping. And I've reached out to him a couple times. We've had some conversations and interacted. So, yeah, you're welcome for a little promotion. Is Blank a Christian band? If that's your real name. Anyways, so I just wanted to talk about that for a little while. I hope that was entertaining. I want to spend a little bit of time. We're going to talk about Hillsong again. But, there's this whole new documentary series on Hulu about Hillsong. And it's like, wasn't there already one before? Yeah, there was. It was on... Oh, yeah, it was on Discovery's platform. Interestingly enough. I haven't watched anything on Discovery since. I don't think I even really signed up for their stuff, for their website, whatever you call it. Oh. So that one was called Hillsong Exposed. I'm pretty sure that was what it was called. Hillsong Exposed. And this new one is called The Secrets of Hillsong. And while it covers a lot of the same stuff, I will say that, this new series has a bit of a difference to it, has a bit more to it than the other series. And we'll talk about those things. I will say, just a disclaimer, I haven't finished the series. I was hoping to finish the whole series before this episode, but I watched 3 episodes, so I've got a pretty good gist of the whole series. And I'll finish it, and maybe there'll be some other stuff that I want to talk about, so I'll briefly talk about it in the next episode. But I'm only just giving my perspective on the series based off of the first 3 episodes. So sue me. I didn't watch the 1 episode. So one of the big differences between this series and the Discovery Hillsong documentary series is that included in this series is conversations with Carl Lentz. And this is the first time that Carl Lentz has broken his silence since being fired from Hillsong. So, and he's introduced in the 2nd episode. The first episode is just kind of laying the groundwork, talking about a lot of stuff that the previous documentary already had. But this is the one thing that they have that the other documentary doesn't. So that kind of draws you in a bit, because you get to hear Carl's perspective, which we haven't heard from him since the whole situation happened. Another thing about this series is that it's pretty much made by the people who made the original Vanity Fair article that broke the whole story. They did the whole investigative journalism and everything, and so it's kind of from their perspective. It is like a Talking Heads documentary where it is just people narrating, not narrating, but being interviewed. There's no narrator. There's no clear agenda. Although there are I'll talk about that in a moment. But yeah. So that is the other big difference. Is that they're kind of the ones behind this whole project. As for the Hillsong Exposed documentary series, I don't know. I guess most of what they brought to their series is that they were kind of talking about the things that people already knew, and some of the information that they gave was very surface level. But they also interviewed a lot of people involved, in the church, people who were formerly in the ministry. And this documentary series has a lot of that as well, but it also has interviews with people who are experts with I don't know, with like church history or whatever, or spiritual abuse experts. So there is a bit of that. Another big difference with this series is that it's kind of better made. In a way, I like some of the editing choices that they made. The style of it is pretty cool. So they obviously have more of a budget or more talent behind what they're doing than the previous documentary might have had. So that's another difference. One of my big problems with this series, however, because something that I liked about the Hillsong Exposed documentary is that it was very balanced. I felt in a lot of what it was saying. It didn't seem like it was an attack on Christianity as a whole. It was mostly targeted towards Hillsong specifically, and the culture that they generated, and the things that were very specific to what they did. And I liked that because I was worried that it was going to be all about how, excuse me, I don't know if you heard that, but my stomach growling. I was worried that it was going to be all like, oh, Hillsong is bad because Christianity is bad. Hillsong is problematic because of some of the things that Christianity promotes. That is problematic. And I didn't really feel that with the Hillsong Exposed documentary series. This one, however, there are plenty of times where it really seems like that it's trying to attack not just Hillsong, but they get specific where it's like certain sects of Christianity. They criticize Pentecostal Christianity. They criticize conservatism and conservatives and such, and it just feels a lot more hateful. And the thing is like, well, how do they do that in this documentary when it's just a talking heads documentary? There's no narrator or anything, or any text telling you what to believe. I think that the certain people that they interview, that they get to talk on their documentary, are specifically chosen to get certain points across. And it's also just in the way that they edit things. You can tell that they're being very cynical towards certain things when they're talking about Christianity as a whole or conservatism. It felt like that this one, and I want to clarify by saying that, like, I am not defending Hillsong at all, the things that they did. I am not coming to their defense. But I just have a problem since this documentary seemed to make it seem like a grander issue than it really was. But I guess in their opinion it is, because a lot of the things that they tackle that they didn't really do in Hillsong Exposed is that they tackle issues of racism or anti-LGBTQ stuff. Which I don't remember Hillsong Exposed doing that at all. Which I feel like that they were trying to appeal to the Christian audience, and appealing to the Christian audience specifically that has problems with Hillsong. This Hulu series feels more of like its target audience is the secular crowd who may be interested in this topic. That's what it feels like. But yeah, it feels like it has more of an agenda. Okay, because here's the thing. they bring up the topic of racism in Hillsong. And that's all founded in the fact that there were some people of color who had a problem with the fact that all the speakers on the stage were white. They had a problem with that. And so they felt like that there was a diversity issue within the church. And so that's a whole subject in this series. Because Carl Lentz was very pro BLM. He was very outspoken about it. But then there would be interviews with these, former Hillsong members being like, I don't think that he was outspoken enough. For a Christian, he's outspoken, but not for a person outside of the church, So that's how they make it a whole, like, Christian thing, And they do bring up the whole issue with the choir director, which I don't remember Hillsong Exposed doing that, and it was probably intentional. Sorry, I'm disgusting. But it was this whole story about the choir director who was a practicing homosexual who was in a gay relationship, but they let him have a position of authority in Hillsong, New York. And when he became more public about it, Brian Houston came out with these statements saying how marriage is between man and a woman, traditional marriage, yada, yada, yada. I don't condone homosexuality. And they interviewed this guy who was gay and who was in leadership at Hillsong, and he talks about how upset he was by it. And so they're painting Hillsong as this anti-LGBTQ church, which is interesting because to us conservatives, they are not conservative enough in that area. I'm pretty sure that Hillsong even has a statement on their website. I could be wrong on this. Don't quote me on this. But I'm pretty sure they have a statement on their website saying how they welcome people specifically, from LGBTQ, whatever. And there's all these statements that Carl Lentz said on live TV and everything about all that. And so, yeah, in our eyes, Hillsong was not conservative enough. But now they're saying that, Hillsong has all these problems. So they make it an issue for sure. And I don't think that either of those things is really the issue of the problems that Hillsong had. Which they do touch on the stuff that I agree with, that obviously are big problematic things, big leadership issues, and too much of a focus on money. I like how they even talked about they talked about the prosperity gospel and how Brian Houston adapted that into his teaching. And I like that. They also talk about the tool of music that Hillsong obviously used, and how they use that to basically manipulate people to feel connected in Hillsong, and also how it was used to further their brand, to bring more attention to them. This is my big new water bottle that I got, by the way. So yeah, there's also the conversation about whether it's the whole volunteer labor conversation about how they had so many volunteers that were unpaid, and the conversation about whether that was abusive or not, abusive in a way where it's they abused the power that they had. And so, in all the financial stuff, so they touch on a lot of that. And so I liked that. That's stuff that I saw as important. Now, in terms of the whole Carl Lentz thing, it's interesting to see where he's at right now. It was also interesting to see that he and his wife, Laura, I think it is, that they're still together. So that's cool. And I will say, I have my questions about whether Carl Lentz is an actual believer or not. This documentary did a good job at making him seem human. Like, no, he doesn't try to justify what he did at all. It seems that he's fully repentant and sorry for what he did, by cheating on his wife. More than once, actually, it turns out. There was another whole affair that was going on that I don't remember Hillsong Exposed talking about, and I just kind of missed entirely. But yeah, he is contrite and very genuine about how sorry he is about that whole thing. And so that's cool to see. I don't know whether he's saved or not. I definitely don't think that he's qualified to be a preacher. I don't know, maybe he feels the same way right now. I hope he's not looking to find another church leadership position. I think he needs to stay away from that and find a different calling. But I saw a different side to him in the documentary, and so that was interesting, I gotta say. He still kind of seems to be, LGBTQ affirming and all that. That I'm not a fan of that at all, and I don't think that's the true. I don't think that's the true fruits of what a Christian should be. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is pray for him, pray for the guy. He's made a lot of mistakes, but that doesn't mean that he can't be redeemed. And if he's truly saved, like, man, God can use him in some very powerful ways, I think. So, yeah, there's a lot that I could talk about the whole Carl Lentz thing, but I like how they don't, even though they make him look human and such and sympathetic, they don't take the weight off of him. They don't take the responsibility off of him, but they also do point to a bigger issue, and that was just the whole leadership model of Hillsong that is just flawed, under Brian Houston and everything. And so I do agree with that. I think that Carl Lentz was only the tip of the iceberg. It was just because of the fact that he was the most famous of any of the staff members of Hillsong, that is because he was the most famous that he got the most attention with the whole controversy. But I think there's a bigger deep-seated issue with it. And in the third episode, they talk more about the history with Brian and his dad, Frank Houston, and I think they go a little bit more deep into it than Hillsong Exposed, because I don't think that there was a whole lot of information about that at first. But so it was interesting, and they go into like the people that accused him, Frank Houston, of basically molesting kids. And they go into the whole like trial and everything about how Brian Houston might have possibly, most likely, hid all that stuff with full knowledge of that kind of stuff was happening. So that's all interesting. And also it's interesting to hear all those connections to Assemblies of God, because for those of you who don't know, Hillsong kind of branched off of Assemblies of God. Frank Houston was an Assemblies of God pastor. And Brian Houston, he was raised in that, but when he started Hillsong, it was not, he didn't want it to be Assemblies of God. But it's interesting because, like, all this controversy with Frank Houston and such, he was in the Assemblies of God while this was happening. And apparently there's evidence to show that there were a lot of other people within the Assemblies of God, in Australia at least, that knew that those things were happening with Frank Houston. And it's interesting to be hearing them talking about it because, for those of you who don't know, I was raised in the Assemblies of God. That's my background. I don't necessarily identify with Assemblies of God currently. I think there's a few things doctrinally, theologically, that I disagree with him on at the point in my life that I'm at now. And there's just some things that I disagree with how they do things. So, but like Assemblies of God is still like in my blood, like my dad is an Assemblies of God minister. So it's interesting to hear all this. I didn't expect to hear the name Assemblies of God in a Hulu documentary so as much as I did. So it's weird because, like, Assemblies of God, we have lots of churches, across the world, but we're probably not in the top 5 like most popular church Christian denominations out there. We might not even be in the top 10. So it's just weird to hear them talk about it like that. It was also interesting because one thing I will say about Assemblies of God is that they have a good structure when it comes to leadership and eldership. How every Assemblies of God pastor is under the authority of a group of elders. They are over the pastor, basically. Like, a pastor, of course, is the leader and he makes all the choices, but like he is under the authority of the eldership. And they made a point to say in the documentary that Brian Houston was not interested in having that same structure. In a church, in an Assemblies of God church, the elders are voted for. But in Hillsong, Brian Houston specifically picked out every leader himself, personally. And if that's not a red flag, because the Assemblies of God has a good structure there. It's a good idea to do it that way. And it's for that reason. And it's because of Brian Houston and what has happened. That's why that kind of structure is in place. I mean, is it perfect all the time? No. I'm sure there are plenty of examples within the Assemblies of God where, leadership was still abusive in a way, in any way, emotionally, spiritually, whatever. But at least the Assemblies of God has this thing set up so that it's a good way to try to prevent stuff like that. Stuff like Hillsong. And Brian Houston just deliberately, he was just not interested in that. And I think that's very telling for the kind of person that he is. And it's very telling for the kind of leadership that Hillsong has or had, whatever. I mean, do they still exist? I don't know. I think it's amazing that if they're still around, it's amazing that they've been able to survive through all this flack. They have 2 documentary series on them, and I think the movement, the anti-Hillsong movement, has been bigger than ever. You got so many like Orthodox Christians, hardcore Christians that are just vehemently against Hillsong and their music and their theology and everything going on. I just don't know how much longer Hillsong is going to survive. I don't know how much they've been affected by any of this, but I don't know. Who knows? But yeah, There's a lot of other things, little things that I could talk about, but I think I've got my main point across. I mean, I guess what does this mean for us? With going back to the documentary itself, my opinion is that it comes from a non-Christian perspective that is very anti-Orthodox Christianity, so you have to be careful about that. But there is some good in it in terms of the things that it brings to light and everything. These sorts of things should be brought to the light, and I think that they do a really good job at that. It's just the fact that they come at it from such a very liberal, progressive perspective that, I personally just don't agree with a lot of the conclusions that they came across. I don't like Hillsong. I'm not a defender of them, but I don't think that homophobia and racism are their biggest issues, honestly, in my opinion. I don't think that those are the reasons that Hillsong is going through what it is right now. And I don't think it has anything to do with traditional Christian beliefs. Most of the beliefs that they have that ended up being harmful and negative they're not actual biblical beliefs. They go a little too far in some areas, okay, for instance, purity culture. A lot of criticisms towards purity culture is very big in the 90s and the early 2000s. And when I say purity culture or purity movement, there was just this big movement. I think a lot of thanks to, oh my goodness, has this been like this the whole time? Gosh dang it, I'm supposed to run a professional show. Sorry, I don't know if you noticed, but there was a bit of a black line because my camera wasn't in full frame or whatever. Purity culture, it was very big in the 90s and early 2000s, specifically because of a book called I Kissed Dating Goodbye. I think that was kind of the big catalyst towards it, by Joshua Harris, who, funnily enough, is not a Christian anymore, and he has denounced that book. And apparently it's not even a good book, because it has some really wonky statements in there. But there's this big movement towards premarital sex and all that. And the thing is that I agree with all of that. I think the Bible calls us to live a life of purity as much as we can, to avoid sex before marriage and anything that could lead up to it. I think that's good. But when I think that purity culture goes too far, and specifically I Kiss Dating Goodbye, apparently I haven't read the book, but Todd Friel talked about this on Wretched. And apparently there's a statement in that book that basically says, if you have had sex before marriage, you are damaged goods. I don't agree with that at all. I mean, well, technically, we're all damaged goods. We're all sinners in need of a savior. The fact that whether you've had sex before marriage doesn't make you permanently damaged or whatever. It doesn't make you lesser of a person. It must have been those extreme beliefs that led Joshua Harris to not be a Christian anymore. And I don't blame him if he thinks that was biblical in any way. So there's stuff like that. And in this Hillsong documentary, they talk about this instance where a young couple at the church, they ended up having premarital sex. And I'm sorry, I'm talking about all these things, and hopefully you guys don't have kids in the room. I'm not going to get graphic, but, you know, I keep saying the word sex a lot, so I apologize. But there's this young couple that, you know, they ended up having sex before marriage, and she ended up getting pregnant. And they went to their church leadership asking for help. The Hillsong church leadership, you know, they felt very, they were very repentant about the whole situation, but they needed help. And how did Hillsong respond? How did the church leadership respond? They had them get up in front of the whole congregation and publicly apologize to all of them, to everyone. Basically shaming them. Now that's where I think that purity culture, if you call it that, goes too far. So that's just one of the examples of where Hillsong, whatever their traditional, what I guess you would call traditional beliefs, where it goes too far. And it's not actually representative of what true Christian beliefs are. And so Hillsong's kind of giving us a bad name as Christians with a lot of their stuff. And so when non-Christians see that, they think, oh, that must be what all of Christianity is like. And that's kind of how this documentary feels like. So I'm, you know, I just want to say that to warn you guys that that's what the series is like. Some of it is good, but some of it kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth because I know the perspective that they're coming from. So it's kind of hard. It's hard for me to be like hand in hand with them, especially when they're like, you know, criticizing Christians for, like, they criticized Brian Houston for that one incident where he and a bunch of other people, like famous Christians or whatever, went to the White House and prayed for Trump. Like, oh wow, it's so terrible, you know. So to keep that in mind, I am interested to finish the series, but maybe you guys are interested in checking that out. Those are my thoughts so far of 3 episodes of The Secrets of Hillsong. I hope that made sense. What did you guys, if you guys have seen this series, what are you guys' thoughts about it? What are your questions about it for those of you who haven't seen it? Let me know in the comments. And yeah. So we're getting about done with this episode. It's getting pretty late, you know, and I have to get up early to get to work. But got a few humble opinions to talk about. Have some music that I wanted to talk about. Recommend / review to you guys. And the first one we have is a new single from Judah. This came out a couple weeks ago. It's called His Story, or History, His Story. Now, I gotta say, when I first saw the title, I thought that was cheesy as heck. Because, I mean, almost every Christian has probably heard that pun, where it's like, it's not history, it's his story. So that was my first reaction. But when I listened to the song, it's a pretty great song, I have to say. I love it when Judah... By the way, this is Judah Lee from the band Judah and the Lion. This is his own solo project, not a side project. He's been very clear about in his Instagram bio, it's not a side project, but it is his solo project. And it's basically because it's this great outlet that he has to be a little bit more upfront about his faith with his music. And so there's a lot of stuff that he's released that I like, and some of it I kind of like more than what Judah and the Lion has been releasing these days. So But this new song, His Story, is basically a worship song. It's talking about how God is the author of time, and it's praising him for that. I think it's really good. It sounds really good too. I love the layered vocals. There's basically a choir in the song, and it's got this very majestic feel to it, very heavy in synths and everything. And I don't know, I just hear it, and it kind of makes me want to worship along with it. So I would highly recommend this song. It's called His Story, History. It's spelt like history, but the way that they spell it, it kind of looks like his story. So, yeah, go check out History by Judah and the Lion. By Judah, period. That's what it is. Just Judah. I shouldn't have that loud. I don't know if you could hear that well or not, but sorry, just having some technical issues. But okay, so and next up, we got a new artist that I recently discovered called, and I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Philippeste, I don't know. It's Felepeste. I discovered these guys through my friends in, well, I say friends, I've never met these people, but Still Small Voice, they're like a blog, online blog, where they recommend and review Christian music, and I needed something different to listen to, so I checked out this band, Felepeste, and they have a new album out called What You Don't Know. And they're not a very well-known band, so I just want to give them the recognition that I think that they deserve. They're like a folk indie rock group, and in terms of sound, this is the first time where I've heard a Christian artist come close to sounding like Kurt Vile. They sound like Kurt Vile. And if you've never heard Kurt Vile, he's got a song called Pretty Pimpin'. And the singer, the main lead singer, sounds like him. And a lot of the music kind of seems to be a little bit influenced by that. So, which I think is cool. I like Kurt Vile. And so it's a good mixture of that. And there's another group that I kind of know personally, Edward and Jane. They're a husband and wife duo, and they kind of have that sound to it. So it's like Kurt Vile meets Edward and Jane, or maybe like the Lumineers. Really good guitar work, and I like I said, I do like the vocals, and I wanted to read their bio from Spotify because I think it does it does describe what they're about, So one of the deepest dichotomies that we have to wrestle with is the rift between our knowledge and our hope, our understanding and our lack of it, our faith and our worry. It is a constant struggle to find the anxious tension between responsibility and inability. Eric of Felepeste. Wait, was I? Oh my goodness, why was I saying Felepeste? What is wrong with me? Why did I write it that way? I'm so sorry, guys. I'm sorry to Felepeste if you're Feepist, if you're listening to this. I'm butchering your name in so many different ways. Felepeste, Fepeste. That's how you spell it. So I apologize. Eric of Felepeste is a constant worrier, and with 3 kids and a wife, he is never without something to feed his anxiety. By day, he does what he can to provide for his family as a whiskey distiller. By night, he finds himself distilling his worries into song in the hopes he can drink them down so as to pass them out. His new album, What You Don't Know, is his most recent attempt to try to wrap his mind around omnipotence and providence, rest and courage, faith and doubt, and the simple inability to see around the corners of the future. And yeah, that's kind of the theme that I get from the songs on this album, is that a lot of it is like struggling between doubt and faith. And I like that. A lot of the songs talk about his doubts, but in the end, you can tell that he's putting his hope in Christ, despite his doubts. And that's the theme that I get from this album. So yeah, and it sounds really cool. It's really fun indie folk vibe to it. I highly recommend What You Don't Know by Fipest. Go check it out.
I ain't no bird or flower. I've got real needs, like a house to heat and kids that got.
All right. Last but not least, we have another Telephone Friends single. I know. I feel like we always got a Telephone Friends single every time that we have an episode. This might be their last single before the full album comes out. I don't know. I feel like they've released like half of it already. But just to recap, Telephone Friends is a super group consisting of Tyson Motzenbacher and John Van Dusen plus others. It's this new band that they've formed, and a lot of their singles up till now have been very fun and almost comedic in many ways, with some of the themes that their songs address. And they've just got this fun, indie rock kind of vibe to it. A lot of Tyson Motzenbacher influence and a lot of John Van Dusen influence. And this song actually feels a bit more John Van Dusen-y, I will say, which is not a bad thing at all. Big fan of John Van Dusen. And I have to say, this one feels a bit more... probably the... I'm sorry. I keep burping. I gotta stop. This is probably the most serious song that they've released. And I say that because although I don't actually know what the song is about. They usually make a post saying what the song is about, and I can't really decipher it myself, but it still sounds good. It just doesn't scream like inherently like either comedic or fun like the previous ones were. But it is a song that you listen to and you're like, huh, interesting. In a way where it's like you want to know what the song is about and you want to listen to it. So this is another banger, another single from Telephone Friends, and so I'm excited to check out the album. So, but go listen to their other singles if you haven't already, and definitely go check out this one. I guess I didn't say the name of the song. It's Yes, Maybe No. Yes, Maybe No by Telephone Friends.
Yes, maybe no. I don't know what I don't know. Only seen what I've seen.
All right, and that's all I got for my humble opinion. I hope that this episode was entertaining in some way. I know it's a little weird. It's a little different kind of format, but we got through it. And also, I'm very tired, so I hope it doesn't come through that much in this episode. I tried my best. So, next episode, I kind of thought about doing another tier list episode. Another album tier list. I know I've talked about doing a DC Talk one. I'm not really ready to do that one yet. Or wait, was it? Have I already done a DC Talk tier? No, I wanted to do DC Talk and solo projects. That's not what I'm going to do now. I actually want to do an Anne Boleyn album tier list. We want to talk about Anne Boleyn in the next episode. Hopefully, unless something big happens before then and I have to talk about it. But I'm kind of just in an Anne Boleyn mood, and apparently they're going to be releasing new music soon, so I'm excited about that. And so to hype myself up, I want to listen to some Anne Boleyn music. I actually recently got a new vinyl. I got Cities on vinyl, which I think might be their best album. That's not a spoiler for this list because I need to re-listen to all their albums and I want to judge them. And I want to figure out what is actually my favorite Anne Boleyn album. Currently, I think it's Cities, but we'll see. So that's what we're going to talk about in the next episode, unless something different happens. We shall see. Yeah. I hope this episode wasn't too weird for you guys. I did my best. But next episode will be back to normal with the usual live streams. So thanks for bearing with me for this episode. If you like what you saw and what you heard, be sure to like and subscribe. Comment below what you thought of this episode. Whatever thoughts that you might have about this episode, just let me know. Comments below. Still working on my John James documentary. Really, I feel like I'm finally getting some momentum with this video, so I'm really excited. Leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. I'll give you a shout out on the show. Leave a rating on Spotify. What did you think of this episode? You can answer that question in Spotify. Podwood Forecast, my other podcast that I have with my friend Mitchell, where we talk about music, movies, and video games. Go check that out for sure. And merch in the description. Go check it out. Yeah, so you guys have a great weekend, a blessed weekend, and I'll see you the next episode. Bye.